Start your day with Photoshop Creative Challenges hosted by Sam Peterson every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Tune in and challenge yourself with a new prompt each day. Hello, everybody. I am DTM, aka Delta Tango Mike, and we are with the amazingly talented Chris Blackstock, freelance illustrator and character designer, drawing for the environment design with Adobe Photoshop. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Doing good. Excited for day two. Finish this our sea monster pirate ship hideout. So excited.
Nice, nice. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna do what most of the time you see in a cooking show. They prepare the food and then put it in one oven and walk over to another oven. It's like, here it is. Because I'm pretty sure
Yes.
it takes more than 4 hours to do what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, exactly. I definitely did some work in between streams. I think last time we left off, I hadn't completely inked it. Well, I hadn't done all the line work yet, so I got all that done, and I got some colors done and some textures and stuff. So excited to show you that, and hopefully, I don't know, but we're gonna try to get to a stopping place or a finishing point by the end of the stream today. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's say big ups to everybody joining us in the chat. Sam on deck. Robert, how you doing? RB, welcome. Francisco, aka Paco, thank you for joining us in the chat. Please leave a comment, question, or suggestion so that we know you are there. Go ahead, take it away, Chris. Let's see what you
all
got.
right. This is what we got. Okay. So I think last time or yesterday we were let's make some little notes so you guys can see. I think I only had this area done, and so we had all of this was unfinished. So to kind of streamline things today, I ended up just collapsing all the layers, the line layers, into each other instead of keeping it separate. But before I did that, I ended up doing this with this was a 20 point.
Okay.
And then I ended up doing from here to here a 15 point. And then I ended up doing all of this area as a 10 point.
Wow.
So it's not drastic, but you can tell as the line work kind of recedes, and it helps push it back just a little bit. So when I go to finish, it's already pushing it back for me, which is what I want. I also, before I combined them, I also reduced the opacity slightly on each of those layers. This one, I think, to 80%. And then this one, I think, is at 65%.
Nice.
So it's not, these lines I don't want to be completely black anyways. This front is okay to be completely black because that's in the forefront. We really want a lot of contrast there. That's where you want your eye to read first. But back here, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna retain some of that transparency. So when I put those colors underneath, they'll show through. So yeah. So let's go ahead and so I'll show you some of the colors I did because I'm pretty excited. So these first colors I show you aren't the colors, but these. So what I do first is I'll go ahead and just lay in a base. So I'm just doing, just trying to basically mark off what shapes are what colors are what. These usually aren't my final colors. I'm really just breaking it down as fast as possible. And before that, or just so you guys can see, it's all one. I do a silhouette shape first. So I'll do the whole thing, and you can kind of see it. I'll show you what that could look like. So you basically, so if I had this all filled in, it's kind of fun to see this stuff.
Wow.
So before I start my colors, I go in and I create a big shape for where all the color is going to be. And this allows me to create my clipping masks really, because I'll make a lot of them later on. So as you can see now, this is, that's our silhouette that we're working with now. And so this is the giant shape that I'm basically going to be working off of for the entire project. Actually, it'd be kind of fun if we shrunk that down and we could even keep it somewhere.
Yeah, it adds to the impressiveness when you see it that way. It's like there's spookiness and interesting details. You want to know what all that is.
Well, and the thing is too is when I'm designing this environment, I want to make sure that all reads right. It needs to read as a silhouette in this case, because I don't have a background. I'm really just designing, the actual area that they're interacting with, or but I also in my head I'm also thinking like, okay, I could add a background to this and it's not a big deal, right? It's in water, there's nothing really going to be overlapping it, but even if there was, I could easily add that. But for now, I really wanted that silhouette to shine through, just as if it was a character design. Right. I want you to be able to have a quick read and know exactly what everything is. So we got that. And then, so I'll take that and I'll go ahead and I'll select, as I color it in, I'm kind of creating these places that, hold on. This needs to go there. We're going to go ahead and create this clipping mask again.
Do your thing. Sam says, definitely the line weight has an impact, and I agree with that. And Sam also says, yeah, having an interesting silhouette is huge. And let's welcome Clever and Jack to the chat. Welcome to the stream.
Hello. So now with my colors like this, and I got them blocked out, what it allows for me to do is that I can just easily select them with my magic wand. And so the way that I've been, the way I'm working on this one, this isn't how I always typically work. I was kind of trying to, it's a similar process. Like it feels familiar in certain ways with using clipping masks, doing shadow layers on like a multiply layer, and allowing the colors to kind of dictate the color of the shadow. So other things, but I'm using the lasso tool a lot, and doing a lot of gradient shadows and colors. And so using my base colors on top of that, as I select these things, then I'm adding gradients. And what this does is this allows me to make color changes, do gradient changes, little things that are going to kind of deliver a little more impact, imply light, but not necessarily be, a strict light source, kind of just bring things out a little bit. And so the problem is if I would do that on my colors that I already have, what would happen is when I would go to, let's say I wanted to select that area, it's only going to select a little part of it. I don't know if you guys can see that. See how the lasso, and so I want to be able to, I want to select that whole shape. So instead of doing that, I can just go back to my colors and now I get the whole shape every time. And it's not going to change. That selection is going to be the same every time because I haven't touched that layer. So that's how I'm going to be doing the rest of this. I'll show you a few more steps. So now I've got some gradients I've been putting in. I've still got a lot more to do, but after that, I was starting to think about, texture, right? And so now we've got texture that's going to be adding points of interest, helping separate some of the shapes and materials. Here we've kind of got some rust that's happening on the metal there. Because without that, it's just kind of boring, flat. So we really want to age some of this stuff, right? Some of this wood has been here for a while. It's not driftwood yet, but it's getting aged by the salty air and, the water. So we just kind of went and added some of those textures. It's also a fun time to you can see those with some of those colors, start to add some greens and blues and browns and kind of just make it a little more interesting. So, and then from there, on top of that, I'm going to be having my shadows. And so with the shadow work, I'm trying not to go too dark with this, specifically for how I'm going to render this set piece. Main reason is that it isn't a complete environment and background. So, if this was let's say this was like in a cave and there's like a beam of light shooting down and maybe on the pirate ship, and then you got the lamp lit in the middle, like in the front, then I probably would be rendering this thing totally different and really have those spotlights and the lighting set up. And that would dictate a lot more of how I'm approaching this. But since I'm not doing this, and it feels more like a set piece that you're going to kind of you're really looking at the design and the color more, I'm going to kind of pull back on that a little bit and just use the shadow to kind of accent the piece. So not all of the shadows are going to be, like, oh, it's perfect to where the lighting is or whatever, but it's much more about turning the form and making more of an impact. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it, and having a little less of those really darks. Yeah, it kind of adds a little more visual detail that I want with this. And so so that's where we're gonna go from here. So yeah, I'm gonna just get rolling.
Get rolling. We do have a question from RB. Do you consider using black or white transparent overlay instead of gradients?
No, I've never done that. No, I don't know.
Okay. So the shadow that you have now, how did you make that shadow? What did you have a layer?
So it's just a multiply layer set to 40%. And it's just using a black shadow. So, and with that, so I use a one color, especially for something like this, because it has more of a comic book feel, right? And so having that black color is more, it runs a little more parallel with like how you work with print, so I kind of like that style. But what it allows me to do too is that at the end, I can go in and I can change those shadow colors if I want to. But it also it allows me to kind of select everything really simply, having that black, that one black color. So
yeah, I like that. That's my technique. And the multiply allows you to bring that color from the background to mix it in with that black, so that it adds that the right color shading to that particular piece and wherever you're looking at.
Right,
like
exactly. And you can, there's other ways to do it, but this is a tried and true way. And I definitely think for this piece it works. If you really know color, and there's sometimes pieces that I do that, if my colors are set and I'm not going to change anything, sometimes I'll just go in and shade with the color I need and the shade that I need. But I think because of the style of this and what I'm trying to do, it just made less sense. And I think this is the better approach. Gives me a little more flexibility as I move with the piece to kind of see if I do need to change some of those colors or not. But oops.
Yep. Awesome.
So one thing I want to make sure that I'm not doing. See, I already messed up here. So the one thing I do want to make sure is I don't want to do gradients on my color. I want to switch to my gradients layer before I do that. Because again, I don't want to mess up this base that I have. So I want to keep all those gradients on a separate layer.
Nice. And so now you're gonna color in some more of those color gradients.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a little bit on these teeth, and kind of just pop it out a little bit from.
Look at that.
From the mouth. It'll create a nice contrast between the sand and also those lips.
Very cool. And do you switch around your brushes? Because depending on the texture that you want to show for each type of shadow.
So as far as the shadows and the gradients, those are going to be, for the most part, it's all going to be the same. But when I go to use textures, I mean, I've got definitely a bunch of different brushes that I'm experimenting with and trying out. And usually a lot of the time too, I'll kind of blow up the brush really, really big to really see the textures. Like on this fish right here on the skull armor plated part, I think that one's at like 250 pixels. It's just really big. And it also adds it lets you kind of randomize the texture a little bit when you have certain brushes, and it kind of creates happy accidents that I don't have to think too much about.
Yeah. Got to play around with your brushes. Play with your brushes.
Yes, it's true. It's gotta have happy accidents, and you gotta make sure that when you're creating your work, that you leave a little room for experimentation in each piece. Just to, that it's always nice having a little bit of that energy in there. Gotta do it again. I did.
Annika is on deck. She says, "Oh my God, Chris, this looks so good."
Oh, thank you. Hello, Annika.
Looks awesome.
Let's see, actually.
So you need to select the particular layer to do the selection, then change the layer so you can do the actual textures and shadows and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Some people be like, maybe that's not the best method, but it keeps it clean for me.
Yes.
I definitely like this method.
Yeah, and this is your method, so it's the best method for today. Okay.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
There you go.
Clearing it up for everybody. Thanks.
Whatever works for you, that's fine. There's many ways to go about creating art, especially in the digital space, because you have so many influences that come from the traditional. But at the end of the day, it's what works for your drawing, works for your artwork is best.
So now, let's see, we got a few more here, but so you can already see it's kind of helping add a little more interest to those teeth.
Gosh,
my keyboard. Let me see if I can move my thing here a little bit, see a little bit better.
I like your method of keeping different parts of the drawing and different layers, because sometimes when you want to go back and edit, it makes it easier when they're separate layers. Yes.
And since this is a bit of an experiment for me, it gives me a little bit of leeway as I go and be like, okay, did I do that? Did I do that right? Or, do I need to go back? And so this is good. Oh, another thing I wanted to show you guys. Where is it? So I've got, that's not it. Some reference here. I'll throw the water on. That's always fun.
Look at that water.
Let's see. There's some lights we'll do later.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Oh, and I forgot to show you the moss too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now we're you know what's happening is I'm forgetting to label some of my layers. So this will be like, this stuff right here is kind of like final details. Where it exists on top of every other layer. It's all probably mostly going to be all hand done with a brush. So, and that'll be really cool once we really add some of that moss around. So I had some notes. Let's see. Okay. So this right here was kind of an influence color reference for this piece. So this is a really beautiful backdrop from Gravity Falls. It's definitely like the main influence for this whole stream.
Yeah.
I love their backgrounds. Love the colors that they use. You can kind of see the way that they do these tiny textures in here. Great use of color. I also just really love this transition. So we're not going to be copying it all or using it directly, but it's nice to have something like a color guide or something that you're referencing in case you get lost or just need a kind of just see like, how does that work? Why does it work?
Yeah.
So I pulled a few of the colors from it just to have, and then kind of made a few notes for myself over here. Just talking about the base color, doing the shadow texture, doing some harmonious gradients, which will be at the end to kind of help darken things up and brighten other parts. And then working on lighting and highlights. So that's where I'm trying to get through all today. So yeah, just I know it's right. Like I'm gonna actually finish this. I can dream, a boy can dream. So oh no, what happened to our? He had a. Did I not save it?
What did he have?
Oh wait, maybe it's not on. I had a little. There it is.
Oh, the patch. Oh, look at that.
A little patch.
Little eye patch. Nice.
Yeah, I was like, where'd it go? Okay, is that my lines? Okay.
There you go.
I gotta finish that up.
I like the fact that you have a reference image with the colors, and because that's what I do a lot, and with my work is to research how did other artists solve certain things. You know, what were their solutions? What were their color choices? And and you study. You literally sit there and look at other artists' work, and I'm gonna look at through Chris's portfolio and study and like, how did he make this look this way? And you sit there and study little by little and try things out, and so having references is amazing.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, I always say it too. It's like when you're studying in school or anything, one of the main things you need to do is a master study, right? You need to look at the masters, these people that have been, did this hundreds of years ago, and they did it beautifully. How did they do it? They didn't have any technology that, it's just like hand-eye, that's it, right? And so looking at those people, doing your copies, your master copies, reverse engineering artwork, that's how you're going to get better. I mean, obviously you have your own style, but sometimes you just need to look at what works and why you like it, and then, adapt it to your taste.
That's right. There you go.
So
Sam agrees with the eye patch. Sam says brings the whole piece together, the foundation of this design.
Yes.
Yeah, gotta have.
It's very, very important eye patch. Yes.
And I'm glad you're zooming in so we can see that you're actually making a selection using the lasso tool. It's all good. I know you mentioned you have a big Cintiq, so you don't need to zoom in because you can see everything clearly. Big, like,
yeah. Please tell me, remind me, bug me.
This is beautiful. I love that sand, the texture in the sand. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that texture. So that's a. What did that end up being? I think that was a. It's just like a spray paint brush, like an airbrush. But it's set on really big as well, and it's one of those tilting brushes, so it really sprays out. You kind of get those cool spray effects.
Yeah.
But just those little things adds a lot. It's like you take away all these textures, and it kind of, it's not lifeless, but it feels really flat. Even if you render and everything, like just, it doesn't make it as interesting. And then when you add those textures, all of a sudden it really starts to come alive. Yeah. Okay. And with some of this stuff, because you're saying with the shadows, like what I use, maybe some different brushes. So with some of it, you can see like here, you can see how soft these. So I'll use just like a soft round brush, and that way I can kind of add some shadow work too.
There you go.
That's just a little bit easier to do really quickly, but it's where I don't really need a lot of it. Might even use that on it.
Maybe that, just a touch.
And it's just going to add a little more interest. And again, it's nice having that multiply layer because it keeps all of that other texture and that line work that you worked so hard on. Keeps it visible. But yeah, just like little things like that. I mean, it already, it's funny how quickly you can pop your workout just by doing those little things. So.
Yes. Look at that. Boom.
All right.
Hey, Misty, how you doing? Sean, welcome to the stream. Sean says hello all, and Misty says this is looking amazing. That's right.
Thank you. Always appreciate it. It always means a lot that people are coming out and watching, and
Yeah.
you know, art can be such a solo adventure. So
Right.
it's so important having stuff like this
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, you know, meet other people in the community and get feedback. And so I love this stuff. So I really appreciate it.
Nice. Sean says, Chris, this looks so great. And Reverb Mike says, nailed it. All you need is for Johnny Depp to show up now. And I think he's coming. I don't know if it's true or not. Yeah,
special guest. Special guest.
Alex, what's up? It says, looks incredible. I can't imagine what sort of dreams you have when you go to bed after working on this all day.
Yeah, you don't want to hear about my dreams.
Layers and layers.
Yeah, oh boy.
And brushes.
So since the sand, I'm really trying to keep really soft and pillowy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not using the lasso tool for this.
Mm-hmm. Just a natural brush and pressure.
Yeah, just a soft round brush, having that pressure icon up there.
Mm-hmm.
Have that on so it's all dictated by the pressure of my pen.
And Elizabeth Mock on deck says, whoa, look at all that progress. Yes. It's amazing. Look at it.
Put in the time. Had to. I was like, I got to get this to somewhere fun for the stream.
Right? Yeah.
Otherwise, be sitting here watching me fill in shapes with color. That's not as enjoyable.
Wade on deck says, Chris, tell us your dreams. And then Sean says, wakes up in cold sweat screaming, name your layers.
I don't have, it's funny because I don't think I've ever really had art dreams, like making art in my dreams, which would be way cooler. No, mine are just wild, man. I got a lot of, I think a lot of anxiety, you know,
okay.
Like, I can't open the door. And there's 100 zombies coming for me. I just can't open this. Why isn't the doorknob turning? Why is this a functioning doorknob and I can't?
So regular nightmares.
I think the zombies would eat you by then, but
yeah, right.
They never get to you. It's just, you just have a panic attack. It's just a great time. You know, it's like, go to sleep so I can have some panic attacks.
Right.
So I don't have it during the day. I get them out at night.
Yeah. Well, I think that when I work on a project and I spend a lot of hours on it, and especially when I work with video production, when I'm dreaming of frames, I'm dreaming of cut, paste, move, edit, and it's like, why? I want to relax.
This is not what I want to be doing right now.
Right. Sam Peterson has a question. Which parts of the process are your favorite and least favorite?
Thanks. Good question, Sam. I would say my favorite part is always the drawing. I love drawing. I love creating new stories, new characters. So the sketching part can actually be really frustrating. I mean, I love it, but I wouldn't say I'm a prolific sketcher. Like, I don't have a sketchbook that I'm just always sketching in. I've never been that way. But I really love seeing a drawing to like finish, like a beautiful finished drawing. So that's my favorite part. I think the next part is this aspect of it, you know, just kind of getting in and doing these fun details and kind of seeing where the piece takes me. I have a hard time seeing that initially in my head. So it kind of reveals itself to me as I'm painting, which is scary, but also really, really enjoyable as well as it starts to kind of come together. Yeah, it's I wish I knew exactly what I was doing, but I'm going to kind of just figure it out as I go here and hope that it works. It always seems to work out. So I think I know what I'm doing, but you always, there's always that second guessing.
Mm-hmm. I like taking my time with some art and not looking at it for a few days, because
Yeah.
sometimes in between those gaps of time, the ideas come to you, or you see an art, some drawings from somebody else, and you're like, oh, I see it. I see in your drawing something that I can take into my drawing, and it would fit
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need those times away from your drawing to get those creative moments.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many projects where, you know, they're like, you got a month. And I'm like, okay. And you work on it and nothing, there'll be those moments where you're like, I suck. Like there's, like you just, like you can't think of anything, your
Mm-hmm.
ideas, you're just not loving your ideas. It could be really discouraging. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are those times where it's like, taking all that time isn't helping, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, for me, sometimes having a deadline
Mm-hmm.
really helps push me
Mm-hmm.
to where I need to get. Or it's you end up kind of being indecisive with a lot of things.
Yeah.
So that's but it is nice when you really get to where you are, like you get that piece, that drawing you're loving your design, and then you get to really spend time with it. That's a good feeling.
Yes.
It's a really good feeling.
In experimenting, trying things out. Sometimes you don't see the vision for it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes it just comes out naturally, and I'm
Yep.
surprised when that happens.
Yeah,
I
like,
like,
oh,
yeah,
look what
I'm
I
done.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. Let's
Look at
go.
me,
Let's go
ma.
eat dinner.
Yeah. Look at me, ma. I did it.
And Jack Watson says nothing will motivate you more than a quickly approaching deadline. That's
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. I'm the good thing is that uh, especially with like working professionally, is like I work really well with deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing that I've always been proud about with my time as a professional illustrator is I always meet the deadline. I've never had a late project. So that's something that I always kind of aim for.
Mm-hmm.
Is always try to get it in on time. Always,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and if you can't, I think a lot of artists are guilty of this. Is don't make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Just be honest with your client
Mm-hmm.
and give them a real time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Now it doesn't have to be exact, right? Like sometimes you give them a time frame that is satisfies them, but you also know in the back of your head, I'm like, I'm going to take another day or two. That can be okay sometimes, depending on what the project, like if they don't need your art, they
Mm-hmm.
say they need it, but you know that they don't actually need it by that time. There's always ways to kind of buy yourself a little more time, but
Mm-hmm.
you should always aim to get that art in on time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that tired trope of like, artists are flaky.
Mm-hmm.
They never respond to their emails. They don't,
Mm-hmm.
because I deal with that all the time too, with managers and other, like it goes both ways. So I always like to feel like I'm on top and I'm the one being responsible. I'm the one communicating. I'm the one doing my job. So if something does happen with the client, if there's dissatisfaction or whatever, at least in the end, you'd be like, I did my end. I did my part of the contract. So, whatever goes beyond that, it's kind of on you.
Right. Right. And Alex says honesty is crucial to a happy life, and good work takes time. And I want to agree with everything you said. Is sometimes it's communication too. It's all
Oh
about
yeah.
communication, because artists, so you get to a point where these are part of your normal skills, and it's just second nature. But there's also an emotion part involved, and that's your
Oh yeah.
passion. So sometimes you don't feel the passion, you don't feel that creativity.
Yep.
And so yes, you got to find a way to make it work and communicate. I like that.
I mean, you're right. It can be really hard. It can be really hard. And I think that's definitely one of the harder parts of being an artist is taking something that you love and turning it into a business and finding ways to combine that love with your work, but also ways to separate it and find either other things like other hobbies that can help you create a little bit of a distance between your work, or find time to make your personal work to keep furthering yourself as an artist and not as a producer.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's super important because that producer part, there's already a very fine line that you have to follow. Like when you mentioned, sticking to art style guidelines, and so sometimes you could feel like you're just a machine producing that. That's where passion projects come in. That's where you get to stretch out those extra muscles and build and challenge yourself. Yes. Welcome, Rob, to the chat. Rob says, dang, I'm late to the party, but this is incredible. Yes, it is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Look at that. Bam. Shadows just appear out of nowhere.
And so we're kind of lighting a lot of this as my idea for this whole thing is that it's going to be in a cave, but there's going to be light coming through the top. So there's going to be some top lighting. And then when we do some of the lighting with the lamp, we're just going to kind of put that in places to kind of give it that accent. But like I said, this is much more of like a set piece and like a rendering of like the design itself, and less a full environment. It's really for like the environment that they're going to kind of look at and use and maybe retool or restructure. So the lighting's not going to be super dramatic because we really just want to see the piece itself, the set piece. But we'll add little things in here and there with bounce light and reflective light and stuff and spectral light and all that. All in this stream. We're going to get it all. All going to get done. I swear.
That's right. Well, you have an hour.
Oh yeah. Perfect. It's
Oh man, if you're just joining us now, freelance illustrator and character designer Chris Blackstock is exploring environment designs and why is it just as important as the characters. Remember that Adobe Live replays are available when we're offline, and we have replays both on YouTube and Behance. So please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on creative goodness.
That's
right. There's a lot of creative goodness on Behance. What's up, Joseph? Thank you for stopping through. Appreciate you joining us in the chat. Joseph says, you and Chris are killing it. And me, I'm just watching like everybody else, enjoying the moment. But yes, Chris is putting in work. Look at that. Bam. It's getting that shading in there, making it pop. I say pop, but there's proper words for all of this.
Yeah, we're just, for me, the shading's always, especially with a drawing like this, because it's got these big bold lines and it's going to feel flat. So we're using the shadows to kind of add that volume, give it that volumetric look, which I always think is kind of a cool style. You got this kind of flat graphic marks.
Yes.
But then you're kind of finding ways to make it pop.
You fool the eye into believing that you can, that rope is actually sitting there against the wood, against the harpoon. Yes.
Right.
RB says, make it pop, Chris. Joseph, he's trying. Joseph, welcome. Joseph says, I clicked into the live stream on a whim and I cannot leave now. That's right.
Yay.
He's stuck with us.
That's right. Yeah, I feel like I chose a good subject matter this time around. It's kind of a fun one.
Yes, yes, and it's you already have drawn pirates, so they needed a home. They need to
They
live
needed a
somewhere.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pirates, they need love and gold too.
right. They need somewhere to keep their gains.
Let's see. Oops.
And so you are in a masking layer. So when you make selections, it really just keeps that selection inside of what you already have.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
um, that's exactly right. And that's what, let's say if I took this off. So now you can see
mm-hmm.
the shadows all over the place.
Going
So
outside.
we just go ahead and create
Yeah.
that clipping mask, and
Boom.
there we go. It's looking nice.
Clipping mask. There it is. Damn. So keyboard shortcuts are super important because you're switching between tools.
Yes. Oops. So yeah, to add to a lasso, you just hold Shift, and then if you want to take away from it, you hold the Alt key. I'm also working on a Mac,
Okay.
just in case, so people know. And if I'm saying keys, I think is the Command key. Maybe that's the only key. I think that's not on the
Yeah. It's
on the
command or
PC.
control. Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Control is PC, command Mac.
Okay. So then we add, yeah, it's gonna look cool.
Oh, look at that.
All right. So this feels pretty close to not finished, but done to a place that I can move on to these bones. I'm just going to do this quick little thing on the sword, and then I think we can move on. All the little details.
Yeah. When you're looking at your drawing, there's always things that stand out. It's like, yeah, I can't leave just yet. I need to touch this up.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a question from Joseph. Says, I do have a question for Chris. At what point do you decide to consolidate layers? Some of my projects have so many layers it becomes difficult to work.
Yeah, I mean it's all personal preference. I think the big thing is staying organized. So for me at this point, I'm not really going to be using many more layers. I've kind of got my layers set up, and I'm just kind of hitting it. All my textures are going to be on one layer. All my shadows are going to be on one layer. All my highlights are going to be on one layer, and then all my details are going to be on one layer. And then I've got my line work and the color. So each one has its own layer, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Sometimes if a piece is more complex, you can have other layers, but I would group those too. Like if you have a bunch of layers, it's good to start grouping them if you're having trouble organizing, because you're not working on every layer all the time. So if there's layers that you're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to come to that for a while, group those, get those put away so they're not distracting you and you're not going through 30 layers trying to find the one layer that you need. But yeah, it's different for everybody. Yeah, it's different for everybody. People have all different kinds of ways of how they like to work. There's some people that are just crazy and don't organize their layers at all, and they just but their work is amazing. So it's like it's kind of, it's up to you how you want to work. Let's see. So also too, like if I'm trying to get a selection here and this color's all in one layer, I don't want that purple, that gray purple. So I'll just take my magic wand, go to my color layer, and I can just click that off.
There you go.
So it'll just have that layer, and then I go back to my shadows. I'll go ahead and do that. And so now I'm working into this the spinal cord, which is super fun.
And it looks like some of the ribs go down into the water, and then as we get further closer to the back, the ribs flip up.
Exactly. So, which is really fun. Oops, I'm going to switch to the radial. So I'll kind of switch between the kind of flat gradient tool. I don't know what the linear gradient. Thank you. And then for more detailed stuff or smaller areas, I'll switch to the radial gradient.
Yeah.
So.
Sam Peterson's got some advice. I typically have a handful of layers for my initial build-up: sketch, mask, color, shadows, lights. But once I start painting opaquely, I try to only have a few layers at any given time and start merging painting layers together when I get too many.
Yep. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think a good rule is that once your layers start getting in your way, you need to compress them, or, if you want to keep that layer for whatever reason, you could always duplicate it and set it aside somewhere in a grouped layer. If you just want to hold on to it, but you don't want to look at it. I know sometimes I have layers that I'm like, I'm not ready to get rid of that yet. I'm not sure if where I'm going is the right direction. I want to hold on to that. So I'm going to put a little more shadow back here just to push it back.
My solution, or one of my techniques, is two different parts. One is, if the layers start to get a little cumbersome, that's what we make folders for. We put layers in folders, and so you can able to collapse and open up those folders to see the layers that you want to work in. If your machine, your device, cannot handle that many layers, and that's a real issue for some of us, then this is why I end up with several versions of the same file. And naming is important: version 1, version 2, version 3, and so on. Because then I can have a file where some of those layers that I want to keep, but like Sam says, I can't get rid of it. It's my emotional support layer. And so I keep a copy of the file where some of those layers are still separated. Then I make a new copy of that file and then merge some of those layers. And if I ever need one of those layers again, I can always go back to a different file and bring it in. So, it's there's many ways to go about it. I do not like merging or deleting layers.
Yeah, I was going to say, some people, it's like you don't want to lose that work, or
because edits. There will be edits.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is usually with client work, I like, even with this, what I did is, my other file was getting really beefy because I had so many different sketches. I wanted to show all the process. So I started a whole new project and then brought the layers that I needed into the new project. So I still have all of my original stuff, but it's just on a different file so that I don't have to mess with it. It's saved. I'm not going to delete any of it or alter it as I'm working on the new piece. So that's one way to kind of retain some of that stuff, but not have to look at it.
That's it. There you go. Several file types. Several files for the same drawing.
Same piece. Yep. So I'm just kind of going in here and adding some shadows. This is it's not the most exciting stuff, but it really starts to kind of help you see the piece.
This is the part where I need to be your intern, so I can do those little things. You say, go ahead, Dan, knock out the little shadows, and I'll sit there, and you go on break, and I'll sit there.
I know there's so many things. I feel like as an artist too, with like illustration stuff, there's so many parts where you're just like, this is gonna take hours.
And when you're drawing it, you're excited. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do another rib here, another rib there. But when you're doing all this little work, you're like, why did I draw so many?
Yeah. Like, oh, this is not as fun anymore. But look how good it looks.
It's
amazing.
Gonna
look so good.
Yes. And one other thing, and right now, the focus of this piece is for it to be part of an animation background. And I like to think of art as it could live anywhere, including, murals. And I've worked on a couple of mural designs digitally and then get the mural printed out and hung. And so, as you're looking at this and you're looking at the wide shot, it looks beautiful. All these different compositions and layers work well together. But if you were to take this and print it out really big, and if at any time Chris did some shortcuts and avoided some of the details in a particular part of the drawing, when it's blown up on the wall, you would be able to tell. Like, oh, he missed this sword right here, missed that. And so, this is the time when you really have to sit there and put in that work, because otherwise someone else will notice it.
Yeah, especially with digital. So I've done some murals by hand, some big murals. I have one here in Monrovia at Gray and Cash at the Monrovia coffee shop here. And that one was probably about 20 feet long. But that was all black and white. And then I did some lettering for them. Then I also created their logo and painted that above the kitchen. So if you guys want to check it out, Gray and Cash, Grey and ampersand Cash. But done that. I did a logo or a mural. That's about like a 10-foot mural, a little bit bigger, on this place in San Francisco called the Midway, which is a electronic venue art gallery down in the Dog Patch. So that was really fun. And I used to work for a street art gallery in San Francisco. It did street art, and it also did lowbrow. A lot of stuff through. We had a lot of juxtapose artists. Did shows with. We did one of Shepard Fairey's like first big shows, like Ron English. A lot of these guys. Espo. Just a ton of muralists, ton of graffiti artists, street artists. I worked with Roa for a really long time, from Belgium. So doing it traditionally, like you said, it's like, look, you see what you get is what you see. But with digital, it's true. It's like, it looks beautiful on your computer screen, but it's really not that big. Even these big, like even this 24-inch thing I'm looking at right now, it's still not that big.
Right.
When you go to print it out, and I did posters for a long time. I did posters for Skrillex and Ausla Records, with like Kill the Noise, and let's see, I worked with Haywire and Kill Paris and some other these people. So, when I first did my first posters, there was definitely some points where I was like, oh, I missed that. And then you see these little specks or things that if you were painting it, you normally wouldn't come across.
Right.
So you're totally right. It's something that you definitely should be paying attention to, is if this is going to print, if anybody's really going to see this thing outside of a computer screen,
right,
you really do need to pay attention to the small details.
And other artists, when they're studying your work, they will notice things.
Oh yeah.
They will notice things. We got a question from YouTube. Thank you, Sam. What are the top tips for freelancing? And you just mentioned a bunch of names, so it sounds like you got experience.
Yeah, I mean, freelancing is really hard. I'm currently doing it, and I'm honestly looking to not do it anymore. I've been doing it for almost 10 years. I would say the biggest tips are kind of what I mentioned earlier of, you need to be likable. And I know that seems like a weird, with artists, but that's a huge aspect, is you need to be easy to work with. You need to know how to communicate, and you need to know how to ask for what you need. A lot of the times when people are upset with a client, or don't feel like they've been paid properly for the project, most of that could be solved by you as the artist asking for what you need. It can be hard because sometimes that could mean that you don't get that job because they don't want to pay you. So you have to balance that. You have to know your client and be like, is this somebody that I could ask for what I feel like I deserve for this project? Or is this maybe a project that like I just need to get done to get the experience? So there's so many factors. Pricing is really difficult. That's something that's it's kind of a trial and error, because just like with any product, as that quality increases, your price increases. And there can be some gray area as you're getting better, clients. When do you raise those prices? And one of my friends always says, like, did it make you sick when you asked for it? Because there is a level of it. You almost need to be uncomfortable sometimes with what you're asking for, because that's probably what you deserve. But I think as most artists, we undervalue ourselves. And a lot of the times the client does too. So you have to be, you definitely got to be your biggest fan and make sure that you're trying to ask for what you need. But I don't think there's any real, they always have these books and like, how to freelance, how to do this, how to do that. A lot of it is just trial and error. Look up, a good thing too is like take some business classes. How to run a business is actually probably going to be your biggest thing that you're going to need to know, because one of the hardest parts of freelance is that you're not getting a steady paycheck. So either, some people are like, well, you should just work a regular job first, and then if you want to go freelance, you have money saved up. So, if things go south, or you're having trouble getting clients, or maybe getting paid, which can happen. It happens all the time where I thought I was going to get paid last month and they decide to pay you the next month. So there's all kinds of things. It's a lot easier when you have that kind of nest egg to lean on. But, I think the big thing is make sure you have a really strong portfolio. If you don't have if you don't have the kind of work that you want to do in your portfolio, then you need to make up a project yourself and create that work, because 9 times out of 10, a client is not going to hire you if they don't see that work already in your portfolio. They want to hire you for your style, for your creativity, but they also want it to match up with their project. So don't get discouraged. Like my teacher who I have right now, Nate Ragg, I'm taking a great class, character design class on CG Master Academy, which is an online course that anybody can take. It's really cool. They've got tons of classes on there. But Nate Ragg is my teacher, and he's the production designer at DreamWorks. And I think a great thing that he said in our last Q&A was, he's like, your art isn't for everybody. And even when you're a working professional, even when you've done all these things, your art's not going to fit most projects. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Even a lot of his success, he's worked on Ratatouille, Toy Story 3, Puss in Boots, all these big time movies, The Croods, New Age. But, there's still tons of projects that he's getting passed on because, you know, especially as a production designer, they're just not looking for his type of style, you know, or his sensibilities. So I think it's knowing a little bit about business, which I think is really important. If you can, try to have some money saved up, because I think that's also an important step. Try to have a community that can support you, because there's, you know, I could tell you whatever, all these things, but when you're in the situation and maybe you're dealing with a difficult client, or you just have questions, it's always nice to kind of have somebody to bounce that off of, just because sometimes you're like, am I crazy?
Right.
Am I crazy? Because there are those times you're like, I feel crazy. And, you know, and then you tell somebody else, like, you're not crazy. Right. They're crazy. And you're like, thank you. Thank you. But sometimes, you know, if it's a friend and they're like, no, yeah, you're being crazy. You need to rewrite that email, take a breath. Like, you're taking it, you know. So you've probably been there.
Oh, yeah.
Take a breath. Take a breath. Everything's going to be all right. Yeah. But yeah, it's a hard gig. But don't feel discouraged. A lot of people do it. It's just, it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication, and you have to be really consistent. So freelance is not for the weak.
It's a very tough industry. Just being an artist in general.
Exactly.
And looking for the clients or having a consistent stream of income is very difficult. But like you said, many others have done it successfully. And so there's no reason why you can't be successful also. Just takes time. Very good answer.
Put in that work, man. That's the biggest advice I can say is really put in the work and really try to always think, you know, and this takes time as well, because you have to kind of learn some of this, but you know, when you're doing these projects, imagine who your client is, right? Have an objective more than just the project. Maybe you are your own client, right? Maybe this is for you. What would I like, or what would I need? But, you know, if you're trying to get in the entertainment industry, look at all the books that are out there, all the, you know, making of, read up on the different positions that are out there. Because there might be stuff that you had no idea about, like a story revisionist, or, you know, maybe, storyboard artist, or production designer, or, you know, prop design. Maybe you never knew that, like, prop design is your thing, right? I mean, for me, a lot of this is, you know, trying to be a character designer is really hard, and it's also very competitive, and there are a ton of artists that are better than me. And so when I put my, you know, kind of dip my toe in that water, I just kind of need to be ready to jump head in, because I don't know when that project's going to come up. I don't know when that opportunity is going to come up. And if all of a sudden I get an opportunity and I'm not ready, that could be, and with freelance, with just work in general, like, those can be, missed opportunities can be a big deal and can really affect your career. So, you know, work hard, stay ready. Try to have as much fun as you can. I mean, it's really important, because otherwise you'll get burnt out and you'll be miserable. Trying to figure out what I need to do next. But yeah, it's a good question. It's tough out there.
Yes. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. And yes, try to have fun. You got to have those moments for yourself. Like, I'll work on a project and like a children's book, and I'm doing all these cute, beautiful illustrations. And sometimes I need to take a break and draw a skull, because I'm into skulls, you know. And it's like, I need to draw this for myself. I need a moment for myself.
Yep.
Yeah. So yes, you gotta have fun, and you never know. And do a little bit of research. Keep following streams like this. Follow the artists, and do a little and pay attention to the work that they do and the positions they hold sometimes, because you'll come across a position you didn't know existed, and then you end up liking that part of the process. I actually worked in animation projects before, including for a film, a movie, and but I was just one of the many names of animators and artists who were in that long list at the end of the credits. But I worked in enough frames to that in the kind of work I did, it would just fit me as a 2D illustrator. I know nothing about animation. I dabble, I play around with it, but just what I do know how to do, it fit part of the pipeline. So you never know what you'll come across.
Yep. That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you kind of just, you never know, and it's, and you know, it's gonna happen. You're gonna miss opportunities. Things are, you know, so, but it is important to be ready. Try not to beat yourself up too much, because life is life. Things always happen, and you're not going to be perfect all the time. But just keep pushing forward. Try to stay positive. Try to surround yourself with positive people. Those positive Pollies, not the negative Nancys. Right? Sorry if that's an old.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Polly and Nancy are like, come on. So stereotypical. Let's see.
All right. So
okay.
Yeah, that looks good. Let me jump in. Stay tuned for the artist spotlight coming in later today. I think Sam will put up the place where you can submit your recommendations for creatives to highlight for our next artist spotlight. So stay tuned for that, and we will get everybody's question in, because Chris is sharing a lot of goodness here, so I don't want to interrupt them. But Rob will get to that. Octavio and Alex says, I would also offer the tip of letting your client know well in advance. Let them know now in August that you need to increase prices effective maybe in the new year, so both parties can plan for it. Yeah, always.
That's a good idea. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's communicating is that's a big part of it, right? So make sure you're communicating with your client, because I think some people tend to think about like what could go wrong instead of what could go right. So it's really important. You don't always know what's your client is thinking, and so it might not be a big deal that you're on vacation, or you might have to take an extra 2 weeks. I mean, I remember this last project, they're like, well, we need it by then. I was like, look, I'm already booked to like leave in 2 weeks. Can we split it up? And no problem. Okay, you do this part in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll give you a week off, and then you come back and finish the next. So most people want to work with you, or most people want to work with your schedule if they want to work with you. It's just about being honest. And not doing I can have it done by then, and then the time comes and you're like, I need another week, or
over promising. Yep.
Yeah,
don't get caught up in that.
No, I can get a slippery slope.
Yeah.
All right, what are we gonna do for these bones? I feel like these bones need some texture.
I like how the bones have one tone in the middle of the bridge, and then the tail has a different tone because it's further back. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, trying to make sure that those colors in the back feel, really muted, so they don't pop too far forward. And that's where we really want this. That's why you have these complementary colors with the greens and the reds, and really making it pop in the front there.
Great tips. Rob is asking, who are some of your influences, Chris? I'm getting vibes of Mort Drucker and Al Jaffe. I don't know if I said that right.
Probably. I have a feeling I probably know who those artists are if I saw their artwork. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think lately, somebody who's really influenced a lot of what I do is Corey Loftus, who's he was the character designer. I believe he's probably the art director too for Zootopia.
Mm.
He originally had done a lot of work on this game called, I think it's called Wild Star. It's an old PC MMORPG. But his style, the way he renders, it's kind of like, it's almost hard to put your finger on it when you look at the work. You're like, God, he barely put any like shadow or light in this, but he picked all of the right colors to just everything reads so beautifully, and the way he exaggerates and his line work and the way he sketches. So he's been a huge influence on me as of late. It's somebody I kind of constantly look at to remind myself, like, why is he so successful at creating these characters and environments? So
yeah, some people can see things. Mort Drucker and Al Jaffe are Mad Magazine artists.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I loved Mad Magazine growing up. We used to have a cabin in Arrowhead, which is just north of Los Angeles. And I had like 11 cousins, and most of them were boys, and we're all about a year and a half apart. So you could imagine the shenanigans that we got into. But we always had a big pile of Mad magazines.
I don't think anybody could miss those. So, Go ahead.
Dude, the illustrations in those are just insane. But yeah, I love that stuff growing up. I would always draw it and have fun with it. Yes, I do. I like those artists.
Awesome. Octavio is asking, and let me go ahead and remind everybody to go ahead and submit your recommendations for creatives to highlight for our next artist spotlight. That will be happening in the next 20 minutes. And there usually is a link to do that right above the chat. Sam will let us know how to submit your recommendation for the artist spotlight. The next question is...
Sorry, go ahead.
Cool. The next question is from Octavio Sosa. He's asking, I'm an illustrator for this great company, but the deadlines leave me with very little time to work on my personal projects. And on top of that, I'm a dad of 2 kids and a husband. Any advice? Whoa.
You're speaking my language.
Because you got 2 children.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got 2 kids. I've got a almost 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because a lot of the you almost just can't sleep a lot. I don't know if there's any other. I really find that a lot of the times that I have to work is late at night. For like this stream, it's like I'd basically put the kids to bed, and then I'd come work here from 8 to 1 in the morning, just to try to get some stuff in. And then I'm usually up by 6 when the kids wake up. It's tough, man. Like, I wish there was like an easy, probably the easiest way is like just make a lot of money and have a nanny, right? Or something. It's like, oh, it's because you're not successful, dude. That's why you're having such a hard time. No, it's really hard. It's like there's no real good answer for that, and there's no like. I guess the only things you can really try to do is try to figure out schedules with your wife, with taking care of the kids, and maybe finding ways to trade off. And like, get some of those when you do have time. Like, okay, I really just need to put in time. Like, can you help with the kids, and then I'll get you back the next week, whatever. But yeah, it's tough, man. I feel for you. Like, especially if you got a full-time job and you got kids and a wife, and then you have to try to find time to do your own stuff. I mean, it's like, I also am obsessed with video games. And there's 0 time for that, but it's just like, I still find time to kind of do it when I can. And I think it happens when it happens. But but I try to make a little bit of time because that's my escape, right? Like that's something I love art, but I'm doing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's like, oh, I got all this free time. Like, I don't want to do personal art. I don't want to do like, I just want to chill or have fun or be in somebody else's world. So yeah, I don't know. I think trying to stay as organized as possible. You know, obviously having childcare is the biggest. That's the biggest thing, right? It's like, how do you get that childcare?
And balance, trying to find that balance with your family.
Yeah.
And work.
Right, because then you still want to spend time with your family, right? Like
yeah. But never think of balance as equals, as two equal sides. That's not balance. Right. Technically, the definition of balance, but in real life, it's really about making sure you find those times where you're gonna be 100% with your family and 100% with the job, and time management is super important, super. Yeah. But also, yes, making those deals where it's, look, I need a certain amount of hours, this particular set of days. Like right now, where we're live, I'm at home in my home office, and I've told my family I'm live at Adobe. I cannot have any crazy noises in the house right now. That's it.
Bug me. Yeah.
And so they make the compromise of, okay, we're gonna stay out of the kitchen, we're gonna stay out of doing certain things at this time because I need that perfect silence. Right. And then that means I gotta do something in return for the rest of my family. And so you have to find those compromises and find a way to manage your time so that when it is you are given those amount of hours to work, you go in working, boom.
I think that's a huge one too, is like, do not waste that time. Really be mindful, and just know that like that is your time. Yeah. So what you want to do with it is up to you. But if you have projects in mind, or if you have things that you want to do, it's like, you got to get it, go get it. Be mentally there, which can be hard too, because you're like, you could be scatterbrained or all, all the things with having a family. But I think working on your mental and making sure that when you're there, you're committed to your work. That's really important. But
yeah, that's what right, and that's why we set up habits. You got to set up a system of habits or steps that get you into that creative mode. Mine is Judge Judy. I need to watch a few episodes of Judge Judy.
There you go.
I need to play some music, and play my favorite movies. And as soon as I step into the seat and I have these things rolling around, my creativity knows that it's time to crank it up.
Right.
So whatever that is for you, you need to do that.
I wasn't expecting the Judge Judy. I like
Judge Judy. I grew up with a mother who was very strict, and so when I watched Judge Judy yelling at somebody, it's like, yeah, they deserve it.
Take that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Don't lie.
Yeah, I grew up conservative Catholic, so I went to Catholic school my whole life, so I know that. I know that whole game. That's funny.
Yep. Sam is jumping in and says, I don't even have kids and I have a hard time with that. It seems to be about prioritizing the few most important things and getting rid of anything else. Yes, it is a never-ending struggle. And you feel it. Becca says, I definitely find it hard to find motivation to work on my own art when I get home from 9 to 5. And that's understandable. That's understandable because you've expanded all your energy out of your system for the job, for the gig, and then where's your energy for yourself? And this is why I set up those habits, because those habits is what feeds me that inspiration, that energy to push it out. When you create, and right now everything that Chris is doing, he's expanding the energy and bringing it out of his self. But there was a time when that energy went in. There was a lot of studying and research, and practice, and that's when the energy comes in. So you have to have those recharge times and those times where you you have the system in place to pull it out of you at that time.
It's true.
Mhm.
It's and that can be a hard part too. Is if you're still in a space where you're still studying, still creating, that can be really hard. It can be really hard to try to find that balance. But it's like right now, it's like I'm doing this. I've got this comic book that I'm got to finish up in these next couple weeks. I'm gonna be hosting with Adobe Live as well, which is gonna be awesome. And then I'm got my just regular freelance work, and then also I'm taking a class. And so who's watching the kids right now? Nana.
Right. Community.
Because my wife is here working. She's working on her jewelry company. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have to find ways to make it work. But I think everybody's got their own struggles, and so you're not alone.
Right. And the struggle is always going to be there. There's always going to be something.
That's life. That's
right.
Life.
Yeah, if you want to live life, yeah.
Yeah. Life is like, life is a struggle, but it's a beautiful struggle, right? Like you can make it beautiful. But yeah, I mean, it's especially if you want to do anything great, it's not going to be easy.
Yes.
Never.
Right.
And that's just a fact.
It's never going to be easy. Rob says, I'm with you, Becca. The daily grind kind of wears you out. Then there are always things that come up. And I'm going to add this to that part, is that, yes, when you look at your daily life, there is this big spending of energy because of the job and certain things. And so then instead of thinking of your daily life as I didn't draw today, or I need to find time to draw today, you look at your overall schedule and say, once a week, I want to be able to put in 3 to 4 hours, or whatever time you think you can put together, and say, this is the day when everybody has to leave me alone. This is the day where I'm not going to work today. This is the day where I take a day off. You got to find a way to find that balance, which is never an equal thing on each side, but you find those moments where it's all about you and your talent.
Yep.
Ross says, I find it tough to have art as a side hustle. It requires constant work, yes, and development, correct. Scheduling and commitment are paramount. A long list.
Yep.
It's a long list.
It's a long list.
And Becca says, lately I get most of my art done while I play D&D online. It gives me the time and inspiration to work on my stuff. So there it is. Yes, you find your spots. Find your spots.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, I just decided that this is what I'm going to do, and there is no plan B. So, it's like, that's kind of how I've always been my entire life. And, it's had its up and downs, and it's not been easy. And there's been plenty of, financial struggle and relationship and all the things. Right. But I also realized too, that even if I had a 9-to-5 and I had all this stability and all these other things, those problems would still exist. It would just exist in some other way or format, or so, it's really just, like you said, it's really just finding ways to kind of overcome that and deal with it, and try to look for solutions instead of, it's like, don't look for problems, but for solutions. Right.
right.
But it's a good statement, because it's really true.
Yeah, that's right. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to the stream. We have a few more minutes, about 5 minutes or so, 6 minutes before the artist spotlight. You're good, Chris. You're good. Submit your recommendations for creatives to highlight for our next artist spotlight. The link is right above the chat section here on Behance. So go ahead and click on that artist spotlight and drop in a link. You can even nominate yourself so that we can all check out your work, tell the world about it, and have that creative flow. Hey Misha, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Looking good so far. I like it. I like it. Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna get to this, but there will be, when I go to post the final, there will be a this will be a little pile of treasure.
There you go. And make sure you do follow Chris on his socials, the Instagram link and the Behance link. The website link is on the description of this video. Sorry to interrupt you, because we want to see this when it's done.
Yes. Blackstockart.com. Blackstock Art as the Instagram handle. Please go check it out. I just kind of retooled my website for all the new character design work I've been doing. So
very nice. But yeah, I need that flag with that skull, just the way it is. I need that.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah, love skulls. Stay tuned for the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Claddy from Print My Soul immediately following. And join video content creator Alex Hogg as he shows you his editing workflow for action and adventure content. Nice. And thank you, Sam, for dropping the links in the chat. So you can go ahead and follow Chris Blackstock on Instagram and Behance. Bam. And once we'll do the artist spotlight, we still have time to come back in and add anything else you want. So you're good.
I just wanted to finish one, you know. We'll get there. I mean, I'll get to a stopping point, but I'm sure I'll go back and I'm gonna get crazy with the details and add all the fun stuff.
Well, that foreground looks amazing. All the textures, the shadows, the highlights, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, and a lot of this, and we're going to try to keep most of the texture here, right, in the foreground. This is really where you want your eye to be. So we don't want to add too much texture back here, just because we don't.
It starts to get muddy, huh? Once it's too much.
It could get muddy. It just could be just too much, right? Like it's. That's why a lot of it is kind of simplified. It's just an easier read. I think a little more enjoyable. So since this is bowing up just a little bit, I kind of get a nice gradient shadow here.
Yeah. Hey, Enlightened Swami, thank you. Says amazing work, Chris. Next level work. Thank you.
Thank you.
RB says looking dope, Chris.
Thank you.
Just find more spots for more shadows.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom.
There we go. Actually. Okay. It's just all the little things, right? It just helps turn that form just a little bit more.
One more minute, and then we're gonna jump into the artist spotlight.
All right.
Hey, Misty. Misty got one question right before we go to the artist spotlight. Chris, do you ever hide any Easter eggs in your artwork?
It just kind of depends. Like, I don't know. Easter eggs are kind of like weird, right? Because they kind of reference past stuff, or so I guess there's probably always things that I end up using, or with my style and stuff. But I do like to always have little tiny story elements, like this little pirate guy, and it's especially because I don't do environments that much, and so I really wanted to not have any characters in this. I really wanted it just to let the environment shine. So, but I guess I couldn't leave out the one little element of a character there. So Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do it subconsciously. I don't think I do it a lot. Thinking about it like, oh, I'm going to put a little something here. I think with the posters, when I was doing my electronic posters and stuff, there was more of that. Just because I could kind of go crazy. If you look a lot of the Kill Paris stuff that I did, there's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff from his videos and other previous posters. But so yeah.
All right. There you go. Good answer. Thank you. Robert says, love both of your work. Chris and DTM. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go ahead and save. Yeah, you are saving. Good.
Yep. I'm on top of it.
And let's see who is our artist spotlight for today. We'll let Chris share his screen and pull it up. Beautiful.
Now, let me get it here.
Let's go. Let me see if I can grab.
All right.
Boom. There it is. Look at that. Look at that.
So let's see. I think the name it was at Min Q, maybe?
Looks like it. Yep. Min Q. Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, but I mean, this work is pretty awesome. I have to say. Looks like these are some nice character lineups we got here. I love the color palette. Look at this this little like dinosaur mech armor suit. I think it's an owl inside of a dino mech.
What?
Let's see.
Yeah, it is.
Very cool. It's kind of like, God, look at these colors. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's the big character lineup. Character lineups are really cool, especially from like a visual development side to kind of get all of those characters in one place and see how they fit together. Really good design. Oh, cool. And he does all close-ups. Very cool.
I love how artists like this find exactly where to put the shadows.
Well, and this is kind of, this is a good thing to look at because, he's probably doing this with a brush, but he could also be doing this with a lasso. I mean, these are really crisp lines. This is a very 2D shaded style, but then you've got these nice gradients here and there with some of the shadows. So it's got that animation style, but obviously a very anime style as well. But it keeps it simple, right? It keeps it really just blocking all those shadow shapes. It's interesting too with some of this, like he's even outlining the highlights, which really adds even more structure to it, which is really cool. But yeah, look at this guy.
That's it.
Oh, he's so
it's
cool.
A mouse. Is that a mouse? It looks like
it could be. I don't know. That's what I mean. They all have these kind of like animal masks, except for the female characters. But oh well, look at that one.
Wow.
Very, very cool. Like, okay, I see you kind of have like these two. Looks like these two human-esque characters, the musketeers and the envoy. So it looks like we might have teams here. But yeah, you can see all the work going in. Just blocking it out. All that beautiful line work. Very cool.
And I love seeing those samples like that, work in progress samples, because, even with Chris's work, when you started and showed us the sketches, you see the sketch and you see what you're talking about, but every artist will have their own idea of what that was going to look like in the end. And the surprise is in the end is like, wow, this is super amazing. But the one thing that all artists have in common is that we can do the sketch. Like if you can do the sketch, there's no telling where your drawing can go. And so being able to see the sketch or the line work of some of these characters is also cool. Because
here's a little segue from that, because he's got a whole sketch dump here, which is really great. So look at this. You can kind of see all this nice development. This stuff is great.
Yes.
Where you can see this very much looks like for video game development.
Becca says it looks like an ArtStation challenge.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. I mean, this is really cool. Just all the weapon types, all the actions here. You got a nice quick turnaround, some expressions. Yeah, look at, and it's really well done. I mean, it's really technical, but he's still using like a pencil style brush that kind of gives it that nice textural feel still, even though it's a really technical drawing. This guy's nice little Joker-esque. When your lips get ripped off, this is what happens, folks. It's brutal. Oh, these are nice because these are all shapes. There's no line work, or there's just minimal line work. Those are really nice. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, just look how much mileage is in here, how much drawing. So, when people ask, like, how do you get better? This is it. He created a project.
Right.
They created a project and just going after it.
It's like you created a whole universe of characters that go together.
Right.
Yes.
Let's look at one of this one's just kind of.
And Steve cleared it up for us as Big Guy is a badger. So the character from the beginning is a badger.
Okay.
Right,
it's a badger.
Cool.
Here's some more. It looks like just character development.
I love mermaids.
You know what? But look, what? She grew legs.
Right.
So there must be a transformation that happens. Maybe it's with, oh my gosh, a little seal pup. Cute little characters. These are great. Really love the color palette. A lot of really bright colors. Definitely like the green, pink, turquoise.
Wade says, that's right. Get that mileage out of your pencils.
Yes. Yes. This is a great way to do a double character lineup because I've had this issue too where you've got this one giant character, right? How do you fit it in? Because all of a sudden showing the scale of that character and you're going to have all these tiny characters on there. But they've done a really nice job of having a second look and a close-up of those characters while kind of excluding that big character in the back. That's a really nice design. I actually participated in this challenge.
Okay.
In the Lightbox challenge on ArtStation. It was really fun. There was a lot of great work that came out of this. I think it was like a year ago, 2 years ago when they did this. ArtStation has a ton of great challenges for character designers out there, and concept artists, environment. But they run these challenges, and you usually have like a month and a half or so, or 2 months to get down on them. And, they do it for keyframe art, for prop design, environment design, character design. But look what it's a good motivator. I mean, look what they were able to get out of this. And again, they created a project for themselves, but had the structure of an outside source. That's a great way to beef up your portfolio.
Sam says great variety between shapes and silhouettes.
So this is crazy. There's a Stranded Land 2020, and then we've got a Stranded Land 2019. And I'm kind of curious. So it looks like there was some development that happened here. So this looks like this was the original designs, right? Which are really beautiful still. I mean, great line work, great color choices. Love these sketches. Great silhouettes. I mean, if you really want to look at, character design, it's all about the silhouettes. Look at these great silhouettes. It's not easy either having all of these items, accessories, and make them fit into that character. Really well done. But yeah, interesting. So you see this, and then we can go back, and this is the updated version, and you can see it. It's a little more confident. It's more graphic. The designs are cleaned up a little bit. That's really cool. I've never seen that actually. To that finished extent of somebody completely updating a project a year later. That's really cool. So yeah, do we want to, let's see, look at one more?
Yeah, let's take a look at one more. Well, Becca tells us that Becca did the Wild West challenge back in 2019, and Robert says he did the online Lightbox Online 2019. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Ooh,
It's a
look at
cool
this.
place. Yeah, these are cool. So this is cool because you've got, he's got your color story here.
Mm-hmm.
He's basing everything off of, which is a really great idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's always cool with things like that. It's if you're struggling with color, really focus on value, and blocking in your values, and your light source and rendering, and then this is a great way to just work with minimal color. Maybe make it monochromatic or analogous, to just the two colors next to each other, like blue and purple or whatever. So that way you're not overwhelming yourself, but you're able to kind of slowly add color into your pieces. Because look at the results that you can have with just even a secondary, a pop, a little bit of that yellow, that light yellow pop. This is really cool. So yeah, you can see really cool. I mean, the layout design too is great. Something I struggle with personally, is laying out my artwork nicely, and some people are just really good at it. This is it's really beautifully done. The way it's all laid out, everything's really easy to read. Really great job. This is really great stuff.
Wow. Yeah. And looking at the characters individually, as a post by itself, those are nice. And I think that's when he worked on them.
Yeah, it looks like this is a progress of him. These are the characters that he's slowly developed over time. That's really cool. Very cool.
Well, good job, cool. Mean. Very good. Awesome composition and color and characters. Go give this artist a follow. The link is in the chat. Sam dropped it in there, so go ahead, check it out. Thank you all for your comments and questions. I appreciate it. This is beautiful work.
Awesome.
Make sure you stay tuned for the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Claudia from Print My Soul. One of the amazing artists that I follow a lot. Claudia got skills. Immediately following, join video content creator Alex Hogue as he shows you his video editing workflow for action and adventure content. And please make sure that you check out the Adobe Live replays. They're available when we're offline. We both have replays on YouTube and Behance, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the creative goodness. And thank you, Sam, for the link to Mean's portfolio. That's awesome, on Behance. All right, we got a few more minutes to see what we're gonna what are you gonna show us now?
I'm just gonna do some quick. Yeah, I'll do that stuff later. I think since we are kind of just going towards the end here, we'll just add some fun few little details, and just kind of show you that. I'm trying to think if that was no, that's not it. Let's see. So there are ways too where eventually, that's kind of what I do is I'll put in a gradient and it'll push it back even more, and then when I go to add those lights, those will shine even more. But a lot of that stuff, that's kind of like you do it at the end. It's like the post, So we're not going to worry. That'll post, put it on my website and post it on Instagram for sure. Okay, let me see if I can find this brush. I thought I saved it, but I'm a little worried that I didn't. Let's see here. Is this it? That's not it. Shoot. Okay. We're going to do some digging.
Look through your brushes. There's a lot of brushes.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I do a bad job of keeping track of my brushes too.
It was late at night and I was so happy. It's like a 3-pronged. Shoot. I mean, I'll find something else instead, but if I can find it, I'd be so happy.
That grass on moss looks awesome on the skull. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Just all the little details. It makes it realistic, but it's still a drawing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I had this great. Maybe that's not. I can use this. This is a fur detailer, but I think we might get a similar look here. So I'm just gonna check, make sure normal mode's okay. Okay, so that's a little light. So I'm actually might just get that pressure off. I'm gonna see if I can flow everything seem.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So it's not as opaque as the other one, which is fine. But
yeah, it's got that blotchy look to it. Nice.
yeah, it'll work. It'll work.
Yeah, we're just watching the master work. So we're not saying anything.
What we can do is we can go ahead and add that in there, and that'll kind of help combine these so that they feel like they share family.
It looks like that fish head's been sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
It's one with nature now.
Okay, so now got a little bit of that, and we can add some of this. Let's see how these look. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty close. We can blend that in there. There we go. So, there's a lot of brushes that are very similar to each other in Photoshop. So don't panic too much if you can't find the brush you used. I guarantee you there's another one that will probably fit your needs. And like I always tell myself, I should just create my own brushes. But you can do that as well in Photoshop, which is amazing. There's plenty of tutorials out there. I know Kyle does some tutorials on how to make brushes, but well, actually ended up looking really cool with the. But these final details are kind of add that some of that contrast between the graphic elements, the big heavy line work, and it's just kind of a cool thing to do. Style wise, I just really like it. Maybe even some right here. Right on that nose.
And this is where you bring in that graphic illustration with the painterly style, and it all just looks like it belongs. It's really nice.
Yeah, and it's kind of at this point it's just kind of, you're just trying to feel it out, right? There's no right or wrong at this point. It's just trying to balance it, and I can always go back and take away if I want, but I don't want to. This is the part that I want to have fun, You know, a lot of my other information's already there. So I can come into this and kind of just mess around and feel like I'm actually doing some painting. So, well, looks cool. All right, what else? I was going to add a little more just kind of fun. Some texture on these teeth a little bit. I'm going to pull this fur detail up and just throw it in my collection of favorite brushes here so I don't lose that again. Okay, maybe this textured. How does that look? Oh, I know what I wanted to do. This is one thing that I wanted to do before we go, because I will be doing some kind of some highlights. So I did want to go over that actually. So I'm just going to use a round brush for some of this. But I want these to really stand out. And so these are going to kind of just be fun kind of lines. And again, a lot of this with this project, it's not exact. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of doing because I think it looks good and it adds to the piece.
It makes the dents look like real dents inside the teeth. Kinda
right.
like the way you did the rocks.
Yeah, these little highlights here are really cool. It's just as the light catches the edge. And again, it's just another little technique that's going to help turn your form, add that little bit of detail. Yeah, even little one right there doesn't, you know.
Damn. I worked on murals where I had interns, and I made the interns paint the flat areas, all the flat colors, and teach them how to do the gradients, and then. But the final touches, like that's me. Everybody step back. I know where the little highlights go. I know where all the little shadows go. This is the fun stuff. I gotta do this.
Yeah, exactly. It really is though. So I'm going to try something. I'm going to kind of just go in and do a little bit of. I'm going to see if I can put this in my textures.
Got a couple more minutes left. There it is.
So then you get this cool, there's some like grime on there. So this is what I'm going to be doing, right? I'm going to be zooming out, looking at my piece, and I'm going to be slowly adding in elements that are going to improve this piece, add to the focal points, and in the end, hopefully end up with this really well-balanced piece of art and environment design. So, and like I said, this wasn't even the plan. It's just, as I'm moving here, I'm like, you know, what would look great? What would add a little more interest? And also just thinking about your environment, like, okay, how long's this thing been here? Maybe it had some like plaque and grime before it attacked the ship, right? Maybe he was munching on something. And so little things like that are really fun to think about. And then I just like using that gradient kind of push. I'm definitely leaning into the digital aspects on this one. I want it to feel digital. And I think that's like, you know, using this as a reference, it's got all these great painterly aspects to it, but it's very digital. You know, you can tell it's digital right away. And I want that same vibe, you know.
That looks awesome. Well, good job, Chris. Illustrator and character designer Chris just spent a couple of days with us sharing the process on creating environmental designs and with Adobe Photoshop. So go ahead and give him a shout out right here in the chat. Let him know how you feel about it, and make sure you follow Chris on Behance or Instagram or both places, and stay tuned for more because this looks amazing. Good job, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. You're a great host. Thanks for everybody coming by. I had a ton of fun, and I will be posting this finished bad boy in the next week.
All right. While you try to balance your life, no rush.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no rush, right.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.